Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to part 2 of the Neverwinter crafting tutorial. In the last video I covered the basics and getting you up to leadership level 3, and what you would need to continue down the leadership path. Today we're going to go over what you need to do in order to go down an actual primary profession, be it tailoring, mailsmithing, platesmithing, or leatherworking. If you're not sure which profession you should be following, thankfully it's pretty straightforward. Tailoring is for cloth, used by control wizards. Mailsmithing is for chainmail. It is used by both clerics and great weapon fighters. Platesmithing is used by guardian fighters, and leatherworking is used by trickster rogues. As new classes become available, they will fall under one of these categories. For now, since I'm a control wizard, I will be going into tailoring. Now the good news is, every single one of these professions is exactly the same. The only thing that changes is the requirements you need to do the craft. In this case I need wool scraps, and I will be needing spools of thread. If we were to go into mailsmithing, we would see that they're pretty much the same thing, except for I would need iron ore and charcoal. Platesmithing will also need iron ore and charcoal. And leatherworking will need simple pelts and rock salt. This means that platesmithing and mailsmithing are the only two professions that share the same resources. And this also means that these two professions are shared by 3 different classes. So in the last video we opened up tailoring with level 1. It only took 5 seconds to hire our first weaver. At this point we can now start to craft. Unfortunately, as you can see, we cannot hire another weaver at this time. So it's quite unfortunate. We won't be able to use our second slot to continue our crafting. We'll have to wait until we get to level 3 before we can hire a second weaver and utilize both of these slots. So in the meantime, I recommend continuing down the path of leadership and getting the experience you need there. Leadership is a fantastic profession, and it will help you down the road, giving you items, money, and astral diamonds. Now that we've done that, let's go ahead and do a little bit of tailoring. So what do we need? Well, hopefully in the world at this point you would have found some items that you can use for crafting. You can find these wool scraps out in the world by going through dungeoneering nodes, through religion kit nodes, arcana, and the like. Even thievery nodes will have some kind of items that you can use. Now, in the world, I'd like to go over this real quick since it's available in the upper right-hand corner. You can get extra loot from these nodes by participating in this profession's event. As you can see, for a set period of time, each skill node in the world will have additional professional items. So if you're a crafter, you're going to want to be looking for these and going into areas that you know have lots of nodes. As I covered in the first video, I highly recommend carrying lots of kits with you so you can actually mine any kind of node that you want out in the world. Now in the world you also will be finding things such as these spool threads, but if you run out, don't worry. The spool threads are actually something you can buy from the profession supply trainer. If you go here into the store, you'll see she has all the basics. Charcoal if you decide to go into platesmithing or chainsmithing. You have rock salt for your leatherworking, and of course the thread for your tailoring. You can buy these as many as you want as you go. I'm just going to go ahead and buy a nice stack of 20. You can buy more than one stack. Thankfully you have plenty of inventory here. As you can see, it actually doesn't stack at 20. It goes higher. You can only buy 20 at a time though. So you can buy them in bulk if you so desire. And this is usually recommended, especially if you are going to be using the website and crafting through it. So let's assume that you actually didn't find any kind of resources out in the world. This is a stretch, I know, but it will illustrate that these crafting professions are very self-sufficient. The very first thing you can do is gather wool scraps. All this takes is your weaver, your tailor. If you're doing mailsmithing, this will be gather iron ore. If you're doing leatherworking, gather simple pelts. You yourself will not be going out and gathering these resources. You'll simply be finding them as you adventure. If you do this, it will take 10 minutes. You will get 2 scraps and 5 experience. Once you've gotten the scraps, you then need to turn it into bolt of wool cloth. This is the same thing with the iron and all the other professions. They all will mimic this system. You will have a base component that you have to then refine. So it will take you 10 minutes to gather the base, 10 minutes to refine it into something else. To craft something, you will typically need more than just one of the refined. So here you get 2 of the bolt wool cloths. It takes me 4 to make my first item. So that means I'll have to gather twice, and then I will have to weave it twice. That means it takes you about 40 minutes in order to get to the next part where you can either make these boots or make the shirt. That means it takes a total of about 55 minutes to craft your very first item. So you're looking at about an hour's time before you'll actually see the first item out of your crafting profession. Now, just like leadership, it's going to come down to power leveling your crafting using the most experience that you can get per minute. So when you're doing gathering, you'll notice that you're only getting about 0.5 experience per minute, basically taking the 5 experience dividing by the 10 minutes. The experience that you're going to get the most out of at early levels is these items here, the boots and the shirts. And what it will come down to is basically crafting a bunch of this item over and over again until you get enough experience to move on to the next level. This will happen for quite a while until you get to the next tier of goods, at which point you'll have to find yet another recipe to do this. So unfortunately, you'll still be looking at crafting a whole bunch of items that you'll probably either have to sell or trade off into the marketplace. The good news is that the standard experience rate for a standard profession is fairly high. If you take these boots or the shirt, you'll notice you're getting 25 experience for 15 minutes of work. You're actually getting 1.6 repeating experience per minute for crafting one of these 2 items. Now what you may notice is this little oddity here, the mass wool cloth weaving. This is designed to have a very long timer so that you can get a whole bunch of refining done without having to come back to the game. Typically, say you're going to go to bed. You're going to be away from the game for 8 hours or so, and you're not going to be using the website. That's when you're going to want to use this. If you take a look at the ratios here, you'll notice that under gathering the scraps and weaving them, you have a 1-to-1 ratio. Gathering gives me 2, refining takes those 2 scraps and turns it into 2 bolts. However, the mass production takes 10 scraps and only gives you 8 cloth. So you will be losing a little bit of material. The good news is you will be using less of this item that you need to buy, in this case the spool of thread. Instead of using a total of 10 of these, you'll only be using 4, so you'll save a little bit of money. Now the truth is, money in this game is not too hard to come by, so I honestly do not recommend doing mass production as a standard. Only if you're going to be away from the game and you don't want to sit there and manage 10-minute queues over and over and over again. Otherwise, you'll get the most experience out of doing the 10-minute duration gather and weave. You'll notice that you do get 10 times the experience, but the timer is far off. This is far more than 10 times a 10-minute craft. So keep that in mind. Do the mass production only if you really can't be bothered to come and keep an eye on the profession at the 10-minute marks required. So at this time we can see that I have 2 out of the 4 bolt cloths needed, and that is just from adventuring out into the world. So in order to make my first item, I'm going to have to go ahead and do my first weave. So we're going to go ahead and do that, select my weaver, and you'll see here that it lets me know that I'm going to consume the wool scraps and the spools of thread. We'll go ahead and start that task, and we'll come back in 10 minutes time to check up on the craft. Now that the weave is completed, we can go ahead and collect it, gain our reward, and we can now create our first item. In this case we can choose to make boots or to make a shirt. Now for all characters there are 2 things that you're going to have a hard time finding out in the world, at least in the early game. Those are shirts and pants. As you can see, I have very low level shirt and pants because they're pretty much what you start with. Very basic, very weak. So as you're crafting, this is going to be the way for you to fill those 2 slots, as you will be making better shirts and pants for your character. So if for no other reason, I would recommend going into crafting just to make sure that those 2 items don't fall behind, unless you want to go into the auction house and spend astral diamonds for them. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and make this first shirt, which is going to give me a little more defense and a little more power. So I crafted my shirt. I even have it equipped now. And I've crafted enough boots at this point in order to get to level 2 tailoring. And now I'm going to show you some of the level 2 crafting recipes, and you're going to see that there is a better recipe for experience at this point. At level 2 we unlock a couple new things, including the higher additional weaver. At this point, if you want to stick with a primary profession, you're probably going to want to hire him now, as you can only use both of your crafting slots if you have an additional weaver. So we're going to head do that now. We're going to go back into tailoring and look at what our additional recipes are. Well, you get this wool scraps trading, which requires some bag of gems. Now you're not going to find these bag of gems just lying out in the world. You can get it through normal gameplay, but it's going to take a little bit of effort. These bag of gems come from crafting booster packs, and only the booster packs. In order to get one of these booster packs, you would have to get one from the crafting store. As you can see here, we have the booster packs, and we have the profession asset pack. So the booster pack, as you can see, can give you some of the assets that you require. The only other way to do that is to do your daily prayer or God invoke, and you will get these celestial coins. At 5 coins, you can purchase a Blessed Professions resource pack, which gives you some additional residium, which is great for creating some green items, and you can get possible resources that will help you. This is a tough decision, though, as you have to spend all of your celestial coins on this pack when you can go for 2 more to get 7 to get this coffer, which has ranked enchantments, rank 4 and 5, as well as wards. And wards are very important for getting ranks higher than rank 5 at the end game. So you'll have to decide if you want to go for the serious crafting or if you're going to want to go for gearing yourself up through enchants. Aside from that, the only other things we've unlocked are cloth robes and cloth pants. The robes require 6 of our cloth, and the pants require 5. We now have new calculations that we can put in for getting experience. We'll see with the cloth robes we can get 50 experience for 25 minutes. This gives the cloth robes a ratio of 2 experience per minute. Now that's not the only equation we have to take into account here, because it takes more of the cloth to make the robes than it does to make the boots. So what you'll want to do is find out what time you're using to craft the boots and experience you're getting compared to making the robes altogether. For the boots, you have to gather twice and refine twice. So you're spending 10 minutes on each, so a total of 40 minutes there. And of course that's 5 experience for each of those. If you take the entire time it takes to create the resources through gathering, refining, and then finally making the final product, you'll see that you get about a 0.81 experience per minute for making the boots if you're being entirely self-sufficient and not finding resources out in the world. If you were to do the same thing with the armor, you'll find that you spend about 85 minutes to make it, you get 80 experience, and you're getting a 0.94 experience per minute return. This makes the armor the best return on your investment for your time. So it means you're going to be gathering a lot more, doing some of the smaller 10-minute crafts, but overall that should help you grind out your experience. Now, I'm going to be honest, that's right around where this video could pretty much end, because that is what you're going to be doing from this point on. You're going to be crafting armor or boots, depending upon what you feel you have time for. I recommend the armor, of course, as that's going to be the highest return on your investment. You'll continue doing this through the levels. At level 3, you will unlock some additional items, such as some cloth sleeves, which are pretty much bracers. They will not give you as much return. You can see it's 20 experience per 20 minutes, so that's simply a 1 experience per minute return. Aside from the bracers, you'll also get cloth boots +1. It requires you to create the original cloth boots and combine it with the residium that we've talked about, and that allows you to make this +1 asset. If you're like me in this character, where I haven't been playing the character much and not leveling, you'll notice that you'll get a decent return on the items that you're finding. For the most part, when I've been leveling my professions and leveling my character tends to outlevel the items that I'm getting through the professions. If you find that's happening to you, I would only create these items if they are a marked increase for you, if you feel that you're not going to replace them through your questing and leveling. Otherwise, continue to make the armor so that you can level up your profession as quickly as possible. At level 3, you'll also notice that you can now use the bag of gems for another trade, which will give you some cloth, some more residium, as well as a decent amount of experience. This trend continues even through level 4 and 5. It's not until rank 7 in any profession that this procedure will change. At rank 7, you're going to get the next tier of item. In this case, it's going to be cotton for tailoring, and this is going to happen for every profession. At rank 7, you will move on to the next material. So for platesmithing, I can tell you that it's high-quality iron ore rather than just normal iron ore. It's at this point you're going to have to start making higher-level crafters. You can see that this requires a rank 2 tailorsmith. In order to get that, at level 7, you're given this upgrade weaver, and I'll go ahead and go into details on this. And so what happens is you send out 4 of your current resources, and this is why I suggest constantly training up additional weavers, additional platesmiths, and even mercenaries, because leadership will be doing this as well. You will have to take 4 of your resource, and you'll see here that it's expendable. These will be used up. The 4 tailors, or the 4 weavers that I put into this are going to be consumed, and I will get back a single outfitter. Now, you're not gaining any major bonus from this. You'll notice that the weavers give plus 5% speed. The outfitter is exactly the same, plus 5% speed. That means that in an optional slot for any craft, when you have a chance to use one of these for a speed increase, you'll want to use your lower level guys, because you'll want the higher level guys to start the crafts you want to do, such as gathering the high quality materials. You're going to need more of these as you go. And this is exactly why. At rank 14, you will be able to upgrade your outfitter and turn him into assistant tailor. So going here, you'll see you need to do 4 outfitters in order to get this assistant tailor. And as you can see, once again, the same speed bonus. The only reason why you need to upgrade them is that you cannot perform the higher level tasks with the lower level mercenaries or crafters. So what that means is you're going to spend a lot of time in hiring people, and you're going to want to continually do that throughout your crafting career. Use one of your slots to keep hiring someone in the profession that you want to keep going. It takes 18 hours to hire a single level 1 crafter. It takes 4 of those to create a level 2. It takes 4 level 2s to create a single level 3. As you can see, that adds up very quickly to a lot of time spent. So if you don't want to spend a lot of time upgrading these guys, there is something you should know. And that is that every single one of your craftsmen is a commodity. They are treated as an item. If I go into my crafting inventory, not only do I have my items, but I can click down to my assets, and each of my mercenaries and weavers are considered an asset. This means that these people can be traded, bought, and sold. You can go to the auction house and purchase whatever mercenary or crafter that you need for astral diamonds from other players. This also means that you can trade them among your characters. So I'd like to take you to the gateway to show you how you can use this to your advantage. What you can do is you can take any alts that you may have created, get them up to level 10 so that you can craft with them, and then level up a profession for any of your alts, even if you won't use that profession. So for example, right now I'm using tailoring for my control wizard, but I have a main crafter that's got platesmithing. I could learn platesmithing on any of my other characters. It won't really cost me anything. It just takes a little bit of time to level it. And then I can start using those alts to continually hire the resources I need for my main crafter. If I get the craft high enough on those alt characters, I can also combine them, saving me even more time. Now, I feel that this is important for you crafters out there, that you should at least make one alt, as you are given one free character slot for playing the game, even if you don't put any money into it. So you can use your secondary character to just basically grind up the professions that you need, the assets that you need to continue crafting, even if you do nothing else with that character. If you're not going to be a crafter, this is good news for you, because you can go into the crafting professions and simply start cranking out mercenaries and crafters to help other people, and you can sell them on the auction house. So you might not make any items yourself, but you can certainly make resources that other players need. Since we're talking about assets, let's talk about some of the assets you're going to need for your crafting profession. Later on, you're going to notice that not only do you need an artisan of some kind, you also need some kind of required asset. So in this case, for this tailor, I might need shears, or I might need this awl. These will help you create the items, and these are not consumed. So if I go in here, you'll notice that you have a primary, I've got the weaver, and then you've got a secondary, and you can select whatever you want. But you notice it's up here under required, it's not going to be consumed. These items are typically used for creating blue and purple items, which are basically the rare and epic level loot that you're going to get throughout the game. The first one is required to create it, but additional ones will be used in order to add additional quality. Now I've swapped over to my platesmith to show exactly how this works. If I go into the details, here I can choose my primary asset, and of course the secondary asset that's needed in this case is the worn hammer. And as you can see, it increases your quality right off the bat. Now here's how this works. Let me go ahead and unequip that. When you're crafting blue level items or higher, you'll notice that you have different tiers of that item that you can make. Each of these tiers has guaranteed stats, but you'll notice that Tier 1 and Tier 2 definitely have an increase in power. They both have the same level requirement, in this case level 20, but there's definitely a better quality with the higher tiered item. So for example here, this contains 48 power and 58 defense, plus 68 deflection, while this contains 62 power, 62 defense, and 72 deflection. So you can see there's a marked increase, and this is where you're going to want to focus your crafting. It's going to be on this quality. So you'll use your hammer, you'll see that I now have a plus 8% quality. So what does that mean? That doesn't mean that I'm getting 8% additional stats on the basic item. It means I now have an 8% chance for these boots that I craft to become Tier 2. So I have a 92% chance that it's only going to be Tier 1. I now have several optional assets that I can put in. I can put in additional armorers for more speed. So this craft here takes 15 minutes. I can put in another armorer, bring it down to about 14 minutes if I want to go for speed. So if I want to churn out a bunch of items, I could go down here, go to my assets, and just pump miners into it and increase the speed. If I'm going for quality, it's going to take a little bit longer, but I can use, say, another hammer here to give me additional 8%. Or I can use these worn anvils, which as you can see is going to give me even more percentage of quality. If I fill them all out, and these are only level 1, these are all the regular items that you can buy from the crafting vendor here, and you'll notice that in total I now have a 32% chance to get Tier 2. This is a decent chance, and it gives you a little bit of random element here. Now, eventually, through getting higher level items, you can get this quality to go up to 100%. And just to show you here, this is where you get your items for the professions for quality and speed. If you go to the profession store, you'll notice this is where your resources are, and in case you missed it, which I know some people have, there's a tab over here on the right for assets. This is where you'll get your hammers, your anvils, and even your higher level items such as tongs and armor, bellows, and needles. So that's how it works for blue items. Let's see if we can't take a look at a higher level craft in the system for epics. So here at level 20 for platesmithing, you'll see this is under rare crafting, as opposed to down here what we have is common. The rare crafting is where you'll get a lot of your blues. You'll see down here at high levels you will be able to make some, and you can do tier 1 and tier 2 on these. But any crafting profession, once you get to about rank 3, is going to have these rare kind of challenges for you. It's a rotating system. Every hour, these items will change. So if you see something in here you like, but you're not sure, you'll want to make that decision very quick, because it may go away within the next hour, and then you'll have something else. The good news is this means that you can get a random element of certain items. You might get a deal that you see something on here that you really like. So in this case, there is an epic armor pattern here that I could try and make were I of level and had the resources. But let's go ahead and look at one of these epic items, because the difference is that epics will have more than 2 tiers. It actually has 3. So the power will not only go up over time. So here tier 1 has a certain amount of power, tier 2 gets more powerful, tier 3 may not have as much of a marked increase in power, but in this case you can see it offers an augment slot, and this one is an offensive slot. So getting up to tier 3 is actually very valuable, because near the end game, where you're really going to see your marked progression, is going to be through runes. High-level runes are very expensive, and they are very powerful. So your goal is going to be to try and get as much quality as possible. Unfortunately, as you can see, I do not have any assets that I can use to get there, but we might be able to take a look at the quality and how it affects these epic level items. So let's put as much as we can, and we'll see here we've got a plus 8% quality across the board, and it's giving us a tier 2 up to 24%. So unfortunately at this time I have no way of gauging how you can increase tier 3. But I can tell you that in order to get better quality, you're going to have to once again get booster packs. Let's scroll down, and I'm going to show you where this change lies. Here you have a trade iron hammer for a steel hammer profession here. Now this is exactly like upgrading the miner. You see here I have upgrade 4 miners, turns them into an armorer. That's exactly what this is doing, but it's doing with your assets. You can take 4 of these green iron hammers to combine it into 1 steel hammer, and as you can see, that 1 steel hammer has a plus 24% quality. That's the same exact quality as 3 of the low-level items that I have right now. So it is very important to get these if you want to start getting higher level quality. Now the downside. There is no way to easily get these iron hammers. You cannot trade 4 of your white hammers for 1 green hammer. You have to get these green hammers through the profession booster packs. So again, if you're planning on taking the profession seriously and you want to try and make some really quality items at the end game, you're going to want to start using your celestial coins that you get through invoking the gods every day for the booster packs for crafting. But again, that comes at a trade-off that you're not going to be able to get as many of the augment runes that you'll need for your in-game equipment, so keep that in mind. So now with all of that said, I do want to let you know that in order to increase your speed, the exact same thing is going to happen here. When it comes to your Artisans, you are only going to be able to go so far through the regular crafting system. You'll get up to, say, for example, here, an assistant platesmith. He's only going to have a plus 5% speed. And as you go up higher, you can see that it will require that rank 3 person. And eventually you're going to get up to this point where you have to start getting platesmiths, actual platesmiths, not just assistants. And if we go up here, you'll see that you don't require them at this point. You will only ever need your rank 3. So don't think that you're going to have to buy booster packs to craft through to the end game. We'll go up here and kind of show that off here, that at level 17, it still only requires a rank 3. Let's go up all the way to the epic. Let's just look at the epic crafting one. You can see here, requires rank 3. You never have to worry about going higher than rank 3. But if you want to increase your speed, much like the items where you have to trade in, say, hammers, you're going to get certain artisans in booster packs that are going to help you out. Let's scroll down a tiny bit. So you'll see here, for example, you can get the platesmiths from booster packs, which will give you 10%. You get 4 of those, you can trade them in for 1 that gives you plus 25. And much like the items, you can trade 4 of those 25s right here for 1 50%. So if you want to unlock these final 2 items here, complete a task and earn the rank 3 result, and complete a task with at least 100% speed bonus, you're going to need to buy crafting booster packs in some way. Either trade in astral diamonds for Zen, buy Zen with cash, or trade them on the auction house for astral diamonds, or use your celestial coins. Those are going to be the best ways to do that. These 2 here will require you to get booster packs. Everything else you can get through standard leveling. As you can see, level 60, professions to 10, profession to 20, and of course this one to get 3 professions to level 20. Those are easily obtainable through the game just by spending time without having to buy any real external resources through those Zen shops or anything like that. But these 2, in order to get 100% speed bonus, the only way you're going to be able to do that is to at least get a blue level Artisan. At least. You're going to need possibly an epic level, because that's going to give you 50%, and then you'll need a second one to give you another 50%, unless you can do 1 epic at 50 and 2 blues at 25. There's no way around that. To get this slot, you're going to have booster packs. I have a feeling the same thing's going to happen here with rank 3. Unfortunately, for this tutorial, I haven't gotten far enough to be able to go into that. But if I get more information regarding the system that I can show that off, I certainly will. So ladies and gentlemen, that concludes this section of the Neverwinter crafting tutorial. If there's any more information I can go over, I certainly will. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments section below. If you have a question that possibly will require more characters than YouTube will allow you to put, please feel free to email me at theshadowpost@gmail.com. I'll be more than happy to help out any fledgling crafters who might have questions in their chosen professions as much as I can. Once again, I'd like to ask you to like and favorite the video if you found it to be informative in order to help the search rankings for other people that might need this tutorial. I'm KageKaze. Thanks again for watching.